the help.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Lemieux. Ms. Stubbs, I assume you're next up?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Minister, for taking the time to be here today. I just have a direct question to you. Do you believe that Canada produces the most environmentally and socially responsible oil and gas in the world?
I'm not in a position to know what metrics you're referring to say that it is the most or the best. I and the government support the industry, and we support the industry through policy, through decisions of major infrastructure development. We support it through a variety of programs incenting the private sector to move along to find more sustainable practices. We think that the oil and gas industry, primarily in Alberta, is essential to the health of Canada's economy and to the natural resource sector, which makes up, I'm just being handed a note. NRCan and Shell Canada worked together to develop a froth treatment technology that decreases oil sands energy and water use by 10%. This technology has become the industry standards.
Right.
So,
I used to work in the Department of Energy and the Oil Sands Business Unit in Alberta, and I do represent a big rural northern Alberta riding just south of the oil sands. And the rural communities in my riding are absolutely fueled by the energy development in heavy oil and oil sands and conventional oil and natural gas in that area. So, yeah, I appreciate you reading off some statistics, but I just want to take this opportunity to express to you why Albertans have a hard time believing your words. And, you know, I think Calgarians spoke loud and clear about that in the recent by-elections. So I hope that we don't get into a debate about, you know, about you telling me what Albertans think. But they have a hard time believing what you're saying because you have no problem passionately and directly and coherently talking about other sectors leading the world. And then you equivocate and can't answer the same directly about Canadian oil and gas. And on a number of measures, ranging from the regulatory system to environmental performance, it is acknowledged by experts around the world that Canadian oil and gas is the most environmentally and socially responsible oil and gas in the world, and I think it would help energy workers right across the country who feel absolutely and utterly devastated and hopeless, as well as Albertans, but also Canadians in other energy producing provinces and communities that benefit from energy development, which in fact is every community across the country. It would help them if you, as a leader, as a representative of the federal government, as a prominent and influential voice on behalf of Canada, would say that unabashedly and without equivocation. You know, if you want to know some other points, Alberta, of course, was the first jurisdiction in all of North America to regulate emissions, right? That was more than a year ago, or more than a decade ago. Alberta was the first jurisdiction, in fact, to implement a targeted $15 a ton carbon levy on major industrial emitters that included oil sands developers. That was more than a decade ago. Yet here, Albertans are today confused why, when we ask questions about concrete actions your government is taking in response to, for example, the drop in energy investment over the past couple of years, that is the equivalent of the elimination of the entire auto manufacturing sector and 75% of the aerospace sector, that your answer is, why aren't Albertans and energy workers like grateful enough for these pipeline approvals, and why aren't they grateful enough for the 5.5 weeks extension of employment insurance while you're spending millions and billions of dollars in other sectors, in handouts directly to companies in other countries, and people are utterly devastated about their livelihoods and their futures. You know, you've already pointed out how critical of an issue this is with regards to competitiveness and to trade, particularly with the U.S. You've acknowledged both the trade imbalance there and the way that we are heavily dependent on
if you're going to ask a question, you should do it soon because you're running out of time.
Thanks. I'll just make my own decision about how I advocate here at the committee. And, you know, yet it's the first time in Canadian history that a Prime Minister overruled and rejected the independent recommendation of a regulator on the only pipeline that would actually expand and diversify our export markets and allow energy projects to get to Asian markets. And you say you refuse to stand up for the building of pipelines, which are federal jurisdiction, and that you can provide that much needed leadership
Sorry,
and hope
that's the
for.
time I'm going to have to stop you there, Ms. Stubbs. Thank you. It was consumed.
Well, can I just, through you, Mr. Chair, thank members of
I'll
the
give you a
committee.
brief.
This is the best feature of our democracy, to be accountable, to take positive suggestions, to take them away. And I'm very grateful for the chance to exchange views with members of the committee. And thank you very much for your time, Mr. Chair.
Okay.